So this will be a quick brief about a document I once commissioned and prepared. How to differentiate a person who is targeted by dark ops, by computational radionics, by any nerve agents, by any operatives, from an insane person that is diagnosed and psychiatrized. Well, there's a great probability that the insane person, in the hands of psychiatry, may have some mental maladies, or perhaps being influenced by the astral dimensions and entities. But he is undifferentiable from person that is targeted by PsyOps. However, let us begin. So, these are the psionic war protocols. I prepared these documents between 2014 and 2024. The part about psychiatry, letting light into psychiatry to understand certain aspects better. It is a vain enterprise, so anyway, let's ignore it. What is the law of PsyOps? Exploit existing ignorance. It is not by managing knowledge that one can control public consciousness, but by managing existing ignorance. So even if you are targeted, even if you're a target, the society, by and large, ignorant, doesn't give a fuck and doesn't even know what's going on. By preventing any effective knowledge from ever appearing in the official channels of information, you may be discredited as a fringe psycho at most. Knowing that those who are not directly affected by the information are not naturally curious and that it is easy to limit the dissemination of such data, knowledge can be withheld from people or they can be confused with disinformation. So unless you're an employed whore, either by the Intel discourse or on the other side, or by dark ops as an operative, then you are not supposed to know. This information tends to reproduce itself, so ignorance breeds ignorance, especially in the minds of those seeking solutions to anomalies but who have no reliable sources to turn to. This information doesn't have to be deliberately planted. It often consists of remnants of alternative, confused narratives, the supermarket of New Age belief systems and conspiracy theories. Any valid source of information, any valid experience will drown in those conspiracy theories and fringe New Age belief systems. So, unless you know, then you won't know. So, once such narratives enter the big data system, it becomes extremely difficult to extract them because they are highly selective and specialized. Furthermore, one does not realize the lack of validated information about more subtle aspects of reality until one experiences these aspects directly as a target or an operative, opening oneself to their perception and intellectual processing. So it is well known that it is easier to exploit and maintain existing structures of ignorance, including fringe theories and conspiracy theories, by silently abusing them, leaving most people completely unaffected rationally and skeptically by this background noise. So, here we encounter domains of information: known knowledge, declared knowledge, awareness of the lack of information or known unknowns, unknown knowledge, hidden unsynthesized knowledge capital, and angst, the realm of true ignorance. The dissonance created by these unknowns requires effort to understand and absorb, ultimately reorganize one's worldview. Now, what I enlisted in this particular document, I'm leaving the link below, is all the techniques I experienced, not all of them, some techniques that were, let's say, used on the mental rat to break my resilience to conditioning in order to compromise me as a potential political player, and so on. So I'm not playing the victim here, I'm already finished. However, it might point towards certain methods of self-defense for those of you who will experience that in the regime of computational radionics, mass nerve war, PsyWar across the globe. So, mental profiling. Of course, in order to know what to exploit, we need a mental profile of a candidate or the target. So, provocations for mental profiling: psychological technique used to manipulate and observe individual thought patterns by embedding them within specific ta-da-da. Escalation of behavior. This procedure goes beyond simple observation. It can actively escalate certain behaviors, pushing individuals towards extreme reactions or harmful actions. Emotional incursion refers to deliberate and strategic exploitation of emotions, biochemical, nerve warfare, induced by radio and microwave frequencies to manipulate cognition, disrupt rational processing, erode psychological stability. So fear-based manipulations, anger induction, killing sprees, guilt reinforcement, euphoria conditioning, and so on, so on. Psychological impact of emotional incursions, so on, enforcing thought patterns. Things, this death metal band by Chuck Schuldiner, Death. That's inspired partially by him. Emotional thought patterns, philosophy, right? So, cognitive cutouts, individual and memory cutouts, deliberately removing or suppressing existing thought or script patterns within an individual's cognitive framework. You think your brain isn't decoded, your thought patterns, not wholly, but it may be modified on very advanced levels. In the 1950s, the neural circuitry and activation, remote activation of circuitry of arousal, fear, and pain was already patented. And that was 1950s. That was 75 years ago. So, think about all the possibilities that we had developing those technologies until now. Reality tunnel shifting, engineering, and so on, so on. Anyway, if you're interested in this document, I'm leaving a link below with some outdated old technologies and patents that were recognized, and some counter tactics when the physical attacks on the mind and the body happen from the outside, right? And also a bit of street magic, because not only we are at a game here as magical psionics at a war, at a PsyWar, with some governmental agents, with dark ops, other magicers, but also with the other side, this incarnate side, and that's problematic, right? So you need to know how to move around. Thank you.